email.
The National Stock Exchange of India has been actively involved with initiatives to educate the young generation of our country on the importance of financial management. One such initiative is NSE Fin Wiz that focuses on educating and advising the young workforce of the country on wealth management to enhance financial literacy and to empower
Insurance
them.
is for protection and investment is for growth.
Another program facilitated by NSE IPFT is NSE Financial Quest. This inter-school financial quiz contest goes an extra mile by educating the young students on fundamentals of finance.
On the buzzer, what is this?
It's the formula for the simple interest.
Simple interest is the right answer.
Under the NSE Financial Quest Base Camps banner, the program engages students around the year through workshops on various topics, projects, interactive videos and quizzes.
DiCaprio is bouncing checks off Pan Am.
Plus 75 plus 75.
To facilitate these two programs, NSE along with CNBC TV18 has travelled across the country to bridge the wide knowledge gap in terms of finance. In this episode of NSE Fin Wiz, we are all set to achieve our objectives once again by gauging young professionals in a new city.
Hello and welcome to Season 4 of NSE Fin Wiz, powered by CNBC TV18. I'm your host Mridhu Bhandari, and today my team and I are in the sun and sand city of Goa. We are headed to the headquarters of one of the largest globally diversified metals and mining companies, Vedanta. Vedanta Limited, formerly known as Sesa Sterlite Limited, is one of the world's largest diversified natural resources company. Vedanta Limited is the principal operating company in the group, and with its high quality assets, growth projects and strong management, it is well placed to create value for all shareholders. The company is currently the world's largest zinc miner and contributes 27% of India's current crude oil production. In 2016, the company contributed Rs 20,600 crores to India's industrial growth. NSE Fin Wiz visited the plant in Goa along with the experts to gauge the thoughts and notions of the employees on financial planning and wealth management with the theme Dreams Come True.
I have already started investing. I invest in fixed deposits. I'm starting to invest in SIPs and mutual funds. I already have a recurring deposit and normal cash savings.
For me, since I have just started earning, everything, I have no savings from the background. So every expenditure that comes for me have to be covered from my current incomes. So I think it's really important to have both short-term investments, that is money in bank, so that you can cover sudden expenditures, and also to invest for future.
In the short term, I'm planning a foreign education, so I'm looking for a good return in the short term. Long term, I have not planned as yet, but I will be planning soon.
Hello and welcome to Season 4 of NSE Fin Wiz, powered by CNBC TV18. I'm your host Mridhu Bhandari, and today we're at the headquarters of Vedanta in Goa, and I'm joined by a set of experts to conduct a financial planning and wealth management course here for the employees. Joining me on the show today are Ankur Kapoor, founder of Plutus Capital, and Harshvardhan Rungta, CFP at Rungta Securities. Welcome, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have you with us on CNBC today. First off, the general trend in India is to really start investment planning at a later stage, and we're joined here by a lot of young professionals, some of them in their first jobs, some of them having just joined work yesterday. When should they start their investment planning? Is there an ideal age, if at all? Harsh, would you like to start?
Well, Mridhu, if we talk about retirement planning, let's understand that this is an event in life which is certainly going to happen. If nothing else happens, nothing unfortunate happens to you in your life, you're definitely going to retire. Now the question is, if this is a most certain event to happen at a particular age that is also known to you, why wouldn't you start saving for it as early as possible? You know, if you were to invest 1,000 rupees today, from today for a period of 30 years, and you invest in a product that generates about 14% returns annualized. So that has been talking about long-term investments is going to be equity. Equities generate about a 14% on a long-term basis. So we say 1,000 rupees invested for a period of 30 years, which generates 14% annualized return, will accumulate into a corpus of 54 lakhs. If you decide that it's too early for you, it's time to enjoy, fair enough, and you say I will do this 5 years hence from now.
Right.
The same 1,000 rupees invested for 25 years will now not give you 54 lakhs, but the corpus will reduce to 26.5 lakhs. So delay of 5 years reduces the end corpus by more than half.
Wow.
So that's the advantage of starting early, and that's the power of compounding. So freshers, young people, or anybody for that matter, the earlier you start, you will have time to your side and you can take the advantages of compounding, which is known as the 8th wonder of the world.
Just to get a sense of the kind of audience profile we have here, if I can just have a show of hands, how many of you are under 30? Okay, that's almost the whole room. How many of you are actively saving every month? Quite a few out there. But just to bring in Ankur at this point, this is a generation that really dreams big, that wants everything, that, everyone wants a good house, wants a car, possibly an overseas trip every year. You want to put your children through good schools. So how does one go about setting goals in financial planning?
Well, broadly speaking, the way you should think about goals is you need to do a hierarchy of goals. The bottommost will be the basic goal, which I categorize as irrespective, they have to happen. For example, you get education loan, home loan, but unfortunately there is no retirement loan available. So basic will be the retirement, maybe planning for your kids' education and so on. The next stage would be desire, say going on a foreign vacation will belong to that desire category. The last category would be more aspirational. Let's say I want to start a venture in 10 years, 5 years, will be more aspirational.
Right.
So you need to think of hierarchy when you're planning for your different goals, so that you structure your goals accordingly with respect to the portfolio you need to create for each goal. So as you fill the portfolio for these goals, basic needs to be looked at in the first go.
Right.
Followed by desire and then the aspiration.
Right. Every year an employee possibly wants at least a week off to someplace nice, spending a sizable amount of savings, but at the same time you don't want to touch the savings that you're doing for your house or your car or your whatever other need that might be coming up. So how do you really balance these?
So well, this is actually a very important aspect of financial planning. So there are two things. One is an investment planning. Investment planning is basically deciding where your money gets invested, which product. Financial planning is often confused with investment planning. However, financial planning is a broader term, which actually incorporates these desires of even traveling overseas, taking a holiday, or whatever for that matter. So what financial planning does is allocates a certain budget towards all your requirements, which could be needs, aspirations, or even desires. So the idea is, if you first draw up an investment plan, okay, so currently you're getting a salary in your hand, you get some income at the end of the month. The question is, when that money comes into your hand, a certain portion is already deducted as tax. You are managing all your expenses within the amount which is coming into your hand.
Right.
Why don't you take one step further and think that another 20% is not coming into your hand? So you allocate mentally, you block yourself saying that another 20% is not coming, and that 20% goes into for investments. Just save a 20% from your first salary. All your goals invariably will met with that 20%. And 20% of not your first salary, 20% of all the increments that you keep getting in the course of your career.
All right. On that note, we're going to take a short break on NSE Fin Wiz here on CNBC TV 18. When we come back, we'll hear all about retirement planning and how to build that sizable corpus for your senior years. Stay with us. Welcome back to Season 4 of NSE Fin Wiz, powered by CNBC TV 18. We are here in Goa at the Vedanta headquarters, and I'm joined by a set of experts talking to the employees of Vedanta about the importance of financial planning And in this particular segment, we're going to talk particularly about retirement planning and building a sizable corpus for the senior years. Ankur, what are some of the good investment vehicles as far as retirement planning is concerned?
Well, a lot of people are aware that provident fund contribution happens at the employer end in most of the employment. So that is one vehicle which you should just consider purely for retirement. Don't think of borrowing against PF or anything. In case someone is self-employed, then there is something called NPS. And I strongly believe that NPS can be combined for people in employment also.
Right.
This should be considered purely for retirement. So this has a lock-in period as well, in a way, for many, many years, right? Till 60 you cannot withdraw from NPS. So that is on the safe investment side, purely from retirement point of view. But the PF contribution, or what people save for their income taxes under Section 80C and all, that's not good enough for you to retire comfortably. You know, that's not good enough amount given our inflation and given the lifestyle changes we are in. Additionally, you need to support it through a regular investment into equity. The reason we spoke about equity is it's a long-term investment and it will help you grow your wealth tremendously well. And if you combine it with, you know, PF, NPS combination with the equity side, it will grow really well. And I'll again point out that equity investment I'm talking about is a diversified equity, right, and not a direct equity that most of the people think. So I'm talking about mutual funds and ETFs.
Okay, let me bring in an employee question at this point. Kalpana Sahu Majumdar, who's the Associate Manager of HR, says that she plans to retire early, maybe in the next 10 years or so. How does she invest to get a regular payback to equal to what she's earning currently? And supposing, I mean, I'm assuming even if she could put away, say, about anywhere between 30 to 40,000 a month, or say 50,000 a month, what should her retirement planning be like?
So, well, when we talk about retirement planning, you have to understand clearly, you know, at retirement, there is a certain corpus you need to have in hand. Now, that corpus is going to help you generate regular returns. So, that corpus is basically a quasi-employer for you, who's going to pay out salaries to you. I mean, if I have to just, you know, relate it in that context. So, the corpus requirement has to be calculated very effectively. Why? Because inflation is going to continue even post-retirement. The cost of living at the first year of retirement is going to be an X amount. The second year of retirement is going to be more than the first year of retirement. And so is the case of in the 10th year. So you need to plan your investments in such a manner that inflation is also taken care of, even in the 10th or 15th year of your retirement. So first is identify the amount that you will require for retirement.
Right.
And you have to start accumulating and saving money to accumulate that kind of retirement corpus. Post that, the effective implementation is how do you effectively invest that money in the most appropriate manner so that it takes care of regular income in the initial years as well as in the 20th year of retirement. If you only have short-sightedness and think that, okay, I'm getting sufficient money for whatever I require today, it may be a very difficult situation after 20 years of retirement. So, you know, coming to the amount that you're going to invest, you know, 10 years left to retirement, of course the amount, as I said, is going to be much higher than what you could have done
in
possibly.
Percentage terms?
Well, I guess in today's time, if you have to retire in the next 10 years, about 60 to 70% of your income would need to go into for saving, and I'm not too sure even if that would be sufficient.
All right. On that note, we're going to take another quick break, but when we return, our panel of experts here is going to be answering all the questions that Vedanta employees have here at their headquarters in Goa. Stay with us. Welcome back to Season 4 of NSE Fin Wiz, powered by CNBC TV 18. We're in Goa at the Vedanta headquarters, and I'm joined by a set of experts here who are carrying out a financial planning and wealth management workshop for the employees. And in this segment, we're taking questions from the employees. Ladies and gentlemen, any questions for our set of experts here? Please raise your hands and wait for the mic to reach you.
In most of the seminars, we got to know that equity is meant for long term. But hardly we got to know how long is that long term, and when that long term comes to an end, how to arrive at that.
Okay, how long is the long term really? Ankur?
When we talk about diversified portfolio of equity, it is linked with the business cycle in the economy. So on an average, we see around 7 to 8 years vaguely as a business cycle in India. So long term should be anything beyond this. However, just remember one thing, you invest instead of 7 years, you invest for 14 years, you get the benefit of compounding there, right? The growth will be lot more. But just answering, if you have to invest into equity, have a horizon of 8 to 10 years bare minimum if you're investing into it.
All right.
I want you to please advise me on how I can, like right now, I have 3 criteria to invest in. One is my retirement plan, one is something I'm dreaming of, like if I'm planning to buy a car, and the second is that fixed deposit part where I want some liquidity, like in case I want to encash in that. So in what ratio should that 20% be divided for a person like me who is below 30 at this stage?
Okay, so actually I'm very happy you asked such a question. It only shows that you've actually been listening carefully and you started also thinking on implementation. So Naina, I'd like to congratulate you on that part. Now what is important when you talk about 20%, okay, this 20% needs to be divided as per your targeted goals. Now if you have to buy a car after say 3 years and you know the estimate of a car that you require to buy, so you know the down payment that you need to make, so we can do a backward calculation on that. And an investment product will need to match with those only 3 years time horizon. I cannot give you an equity to invest into for 3 years. So the amount will be identified only after the targeted amount is known, which is which kind of car do you want to buy. Now on the other hand, your retirement, okay, we know there is a certain amount of money that you require at retirement. That's an estimate that we'll make today because your lifestyle will change. The requirement which is today will become small going ahead because your expenses will go up. So you'll need a higher corpus later on. So even if a 10% you set aside for retirement and all other things you try and manage within other 10%, because retirement deserves that kind of 50% allocation. So put 10% aside purely for retirement, and in the other 10% start working around your other requirements such as buying a car. Now what this will enable you to do is, if that 10% is not sufficient for you to accumulate for that car, you will have to possibly reduce the expectation of or the kind of car that you want to buy. So you'll have to reduce the budget for that. So automatically you'll fit into the budgeting aspect. So 10% put it aside for retirement expenses, 10% for all the other requirements that you have. When coming to emergency requirements, that's a very, very important question you asked. How do you, there is some kind of money that you require for emergencies. You need to start accumulating towards that. Ideally, you should have about 3 months because you're in a organized sector employment. I would say have an emergency corpus of about 3 months of your expenses. So whatever your mandatory expenses are, try and make sure if it's 20,000 a month, just make sure you have about a 60 or 70,000 rupees available in the form of a fixed deposit or a liquid fund. So that can be pulled out whenever you need. If you're in an unorganized sector, the requirement would be 6 months of basic expenses. Right. So for you, 3 months basic expenses and emergency fund requirement, 10% goes for retirement, and whatever is left, try and buy a car in that much amount.
Okay, I hope that answers your question, and thank you all for being a very participative audience here today. Thank you very much, gentlemen. With that, it's a wrap for this episode of NSE Fin Wiz on CNBC TV 18. I hope those insights help you grow your money better. Thanks for watching. Until next time, it's goodbye.
Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.